Hey folks, I'm Mark Ryan, this is Super Review, and this is the Sony WF-1000XM4, and you'll note that I made special emphasis, or I put special emphasis on the letters WF, because before today, the word Sony XM4 referred to their over-the-ear noise-canceling headphones, and this is the brand new, just announced today, in-ear true wireless model. So the new features that they're kind of calling out on this new true wireless model, they've got, some new claims for the active noise canceling, some other pretty interesting electronics features that, I'll be honest, I am interested in them, but they're not kind of the headline features for me. What's most exciting to me, and I think to other audiophiles like us, is that the XM4s now support Ldac, which is the highest bitrate Bluetooth codec out there. Not quite lossless quality, but certainly a lot closer than you'll get with Apple products. And that's got me kind of excited about the XM4s, I'll be honest. So now, this is not going to be a full review video. This is just a first look. What we're going to do is we're going to unbox the WF-1000XM4, find out what we get inside of it. And this is a pretty small and cute box, I gotta say. But then what we're also going to do is I'm going to make an attempt at throwing the XM4s onto my measurement rig here and getting a frequency response of this thing. That frequency response is not going to tell us exactly what these things sound like. Unfortunately, you will have to wait for the full review, but it'll give us a sense. The frequency response will tell us kind of what is the flavor of the XM4. And I have a guess, of course, but it's always good to get confirmation. So this is a live stream, like my other videos, and you'll notice I've got a new setup here. Hopefully things are working correctly. If they're not, let me know in the live chat. And I'll fix it at some point. But if you have any questions about the XM4 or anything else that's going on, leave your question in the live chat. And at the end of the video, we'll have a little back and forth conversation. But for now, I guess let's just dive into the XM4s, which, let's give them that spin. All right, the one thing I did kind of neglect to mention is the price here on the XM4s. The original XM3s cost $250 when they first came out, which at the time seemed kind of expensive, but then Apple Airpods came out and their AirPods Pro also cost $250. So $250, not that crazy. Now the XM4s, actually a little bit more expensive than that. These things are $280. So they're coming in at a premium price, maybe not too surprising, but that is something to consider. I also wanted to call, before I unbox these things, the reason you might have noticed the exception or the absence of a review of the Sony XM3s on my channel, the true wireless model. And the big reason for that is this. This is the case for this is the original Sony WF-XM3s. And these things sound pretty good. I've got a lot of pretty positive things to say about these things. Unfortunately, this case is just massive. Like, let's compare it to the AirPods Pro and the Samsung Galaxy Buds. These things are good size cases. This case is freaking massive. I'm interested to see, just based on the size of this box, I'm guessing we've got a pretty significant miniaturization, is that a word? I think the case is probably gonna be smaller, but we'll find that out as we unbox this thing, which I guess we can do right now. And I gotta be honest, I'm a little confused about the packaging. Is it worth doing a tour of the box and seeing if there's anything to learn? I mean, there is a bunch of printing on here. It's got OK Google and Alexa support. I don't think that really appeals to me, if I'm perfectly honest, but I guess I'll test it at some point. They've got battery life claims of 8 hours on the Buds and 16 hours on the case, which 8 hours on the Buds is pretty good. I think the Galaxy Buds Plus are kind of still the leader with around 11 hours, but 8 hours is not a bad claim, definitely better than AirPods Pro. And they claim industry-leading noise canceling, which is maybe a bit of a bold claim. Other than that, I don't think, though, we're gonna find out too much about these things without unboxing them. So let's go ahead and crack open this packaging. And frankly, where do I start? All right, let's see. Do I peel this thing open? Interesting. Interesting. This doesn't feel right, but there we go. Okay. It's pretty nice little packaging. This is like a paper box. Kind of, some sort of eco-friendly box, but let's go ahead and pop this top. see what we are presented with immediately, and there is your case, your charging case for the Sony XM3. Let's pop that out, set it aside for now, and dig in a little bit more into this accessories package. This is, you can tell, a very thoughtful unboxing experience if you are into your unboxing experiences. I guess I've got nothing else to talk about except the unboxing experience, although I guess when I'm not unboxing a thing on camera, I don't usually really care that much about that experience. Let's see, where do we start with? Let's see what's in here. Well, we've got a set of ear tips, and down here a USB cable. I'm sure this is USB Type-C, and yep, can confirm USB-A to Type-C, which ostensibly you would use for charging. Set that side up here. And then here are the ear tips, which these look like they're similar ear tips to what comes with the WF-XM3s, which is a pretty unique style. Interestingly, only smalls and larges in here. I'm guessing the mediums are already pre-installed. But these are actually, actually these are a little bit different than the XM3. So they are, it's almost got like a foam type texture on the outside, but then you can see it is silicone nozzle here on the inside. That's an interesting, yeah, you can tell the way this thing is deforming that it is a foam tip, which is an interesting choice. A gray foam tip can get a little nasty, a little ganky, but we'll see how well that does during the full review. And then what else we got inside here? I'm guessing this is just going to be paperwork, so maybe not too exciting, but all right, that is, hold on, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different paperwork booklets. Like, are you for real, Sony? All right, let's go ahead and read through them all one by one before we get to, I'm just kidding, we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna set this stuff aside and I'm gonna read this at a later date. Just kidding, I'm not gonna read it at a later date either. This stuff is unfortunately gonna go unread unless I run into a problem, but we can zoom in here and finally unwrap the XM4 charging case. Not quite Apple-ish, but I see what you're doing, Sony. Oh man, this paper is ripping. Unboxing experience, just -1 point, but that's okay. But yeah, here you go. You've got the charging case. It looks like it's got some sort of, let's pull these things out. I think these things, this is like a little paper thing in there to prevent the contacts from contacting and draining the battery while it's in storage. But there you go. There is the WF, 1000 XM4s, and I gotta say this case is definitely on the svelter side versus the XM3s. Here you go for comparison. Definitely a big step down in size, which for me is a big positive. I would say, like, width-wise, it's pretty similar. Yeah, maybe a little bit smaller this way, but actually a little bit thicker that way. But definitely a lot smaller in sort of this height dimension. Now, how does that compare to things like the Airpods and the Galaxy Buds? It's still honestly a little bit on the large side. You can see versus the Galaxy Buds footprint is about the same, but if you look at it here vertically, maybe it doesn't look that much smaller on camera, but to me, to myself, in my hand, this feels a little bit smaller, but that's a decent compromise. But then of course, the AirPods Pro, I don't know how Apple does it, but this is just the gold standard for how large a charging case should be. But how large, or what is the look of these earpieces? Because that is the other bit about this. And these things are frankly quite franken-large. Now let me actually pull in the other items for comparison. So there is what a Galaxy Bud Plus looks like, and then here is what an AirPod Pro looks like versus the Sony XM4s. And you can see that the Sony XM4s are definitely on the larger side. These things are pretty chunky, if I'm perfectly honest. We'll see how they fit in just a second. But, you know, the Galaxy Buds Plus, they are themselves somewhat large in the ear, you know, versus something like the AirPods Pro. These things are pretty small and pretty compact, but this is even larger than the Galaxy Buds. I'm gonna throw this stuff back into the case and give these XM4s a bit of a fit test. Hey, how's it going? And we'll see how these things fit into my dome. I know a lot of times with foam tips, You'll want to like compress them before putting them into your ears, but I want to try doing it without that, because that compression step is actually a big reason why I'm not a big fan of foam ear tips. A lot of times it just adds to the process. But now that I've got them inside my ears, let's see if we can jump over here to the side and you can see what the WF-1000XM4 looks like in my ear. And I gotta say, you know, despite the fact that they are quite large and chunky, I feel like they actually fit pretty decently comfortably. You know, they definitely feel large in the ear. They definitely feel like they're taking up space in my concha bowls. But it feels decently secure. I'll give it a little shake right there. And yeah, I don't know. Initial impression is it's definitely on the large side, but it doesn't seem to be too uncomfortable. So now, I guess the next step would be for me to attempt to Bluetooth pair these to my computer and get a frequency response, which is what this thing over here is for. This is a microphone which I can plug the earphone into, run a sine sweep, and it's going to record sort of the relative emphasis in the frequency response, whether or not this is a bassy earphone, a treble bright earphone, etc., etc. But I'll warn you, connecting a Bluetooth device to this thing can sometimes be a pain in the butt. So we will do our best. Let me jump over here to this screen. This is where we've got that measurement device. And let me go to my Bluetooth settings. Try to go to my Bluetooth settings. All right, and let's see how easily these Sonys attempt to pair. I hear them in my ears telling me that they're pairing. There we go. That was honestly a pretty easy pairing process. And then go back over here, and I'm hearing some pretty weird feedback in these things while they're in my ears, so maybe I'll take them out. But that is, I'm not sure what that's all about. But let's see, next step will be, I gotta set the volume output on these things to the XM4s. Go back over here. I might need to, let me reboot Roo real quick. Throw these things over on, oh my gosh. All right. This is how the professionals do it. Just kidding. Output to Sony XM4s. You can't see that. Why don't you put that over there? Put that on that screen. Let everyone else see what's going on. So we'll output to the Sony XM4s to the left channel. Measure it and let's see if this thing works. Let's see. There's a good chance this won't work, but we're going to do our best. I got nothing. All right, what's going on? That is not a frequency response. Go back into here. This all looks correct. Let me see. Are these things, maybe these things are doing some like funny auto turn off, because there is, I don't know if you see this, if I jump back over here, there is actually sort of this infrared sensor in here that ostensibly will tell when these things are actually plugged into your ears. So maybe I'm gonna try holding my finger over it. That's a bad idea because that could throw off the frequency response. Let me figure something else out real quick. We're doing it live, and what I'm gonna try and do is take some Ldac to cover up this infrared port. Infrared light, and make this thing think that it's inside of my ear. Will that work? I have no idea, but let's try it. So one more attempt over here in Roo. And that did not appear to solve my problem. testing music. Music is definitely playing through them. So why is Rue not playing through them? This is just one of those struggles with Bluetooth and measuring. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but it doesn't seem to be working now. I have one other thing I can attempt, which is to go over and grab my laptop and record through that. Might take a little bit. Is it worth it? If you want to hang out for 1 second, that's what I'm going to attempt to do. So chill for a minute, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back with the laptop, and we can try and do this here. Whether or not this actually helps my problem, I don't know, but we'll find out. So I'm gonna try and get these things, these WF-1000XM3s to repair to my laptop. And I apologize for this rather lengthy and arduous process. Let's see if these things repair the same way that they do with the XM3s. It seems to. My Bluetooth preferences on my Mac. Connect here. We're connected. Go over here, play some music real quick. I can hear music coming through them, so that is a good sign. Now, can I get Rue to play through these things? So let's plug this thing into my laptop. And unfortunately, I guess you're not going to be able to see what's going on here, but what's going to happen after this is I'm going to upload this measurement to squig.link. And if you're not familiar with squig.link, well, get familiar with it. It is a website where I upload frequency responses of all the different earphones I review. You can compare them, kind of get a sense for, you know, which ones are the bassy ones and which ones are the trebly ones. And maybe one day I'll do kind of like a demonstration of how to interpret frequency responses, but at this point, I guess I'll just assume that you have some base level knowledge. All right, let's see. Rue, can we do this? Let's see, is that, can you read that? No, you can't really read that. You can kind of read that. My XM4's L, got the output correct, I think. There we go. Input's correct now. Continue anyway. Let's see what happens. That's a squig. All right, let's go jump over here, and I definitely need more volume out of this. And it looks like I need to insert it a little bit deeper, but we're getting pretty close. This is a frequency response of some sort. And the max volume on this is not very high. So, well, this looks like it might be a thing that I'm gonna have to do after this stream and really fine tune it. But for now, let's see what we can get. Push it in just a little bit further. All right, so you probably can't see too much here, but this is your squig for the WF-1000XM4. Let's turn down that brightness. Let's see, dial that in right about there. Let's see, what can we say about this squig? Let me open up the measurement for the XM3, which I made just earlier today. And now let me align these a little bit. It's a little easier to compare. So it does look like the frequency response that we're getting here is actually pretty different. Let's see, like right around here. Interesting. So if this frequency response is to be believed, so what we've got here, this green line is the WF-1000XM3s, the blue line is the XM4s, and what I'm seeing here, based on this frequency response, is kind of a more relaxed tune here on the XM4s. You can see less gain in the upper mid-range. The lower treble is quite a bit darker. I'm interested to see if that actually comes across in listening experience. But the big change that I'm actually pretty excited about is right here in this range. This is sort of like the upper bass and lower bass range, where here, let me hide the XM4 measurement for a second. Here, this curve here on the bass with the XM3 is quite mid-bassy. It gives it kind of like this very thick, full, bassy sound, and it's honestly not bad. It's pretty decent bass, better than definitely the XM3 headphones. But it's a little bit on the thick, kind of soupy side for me. Here, if I bring back the XM4 curve, you can see it's a little bit more contoured here and more focused toward the sub bass, which I think is going to give it a better sound. Now, just the overall tune here looks pretty warm. This region over here, frankly, I'm going to remeasure this thing multiple times to make sure that this is repeatable, because that looks like significantly less treble, although it is against a little bit less of this mid bass, so maybe that's okay. But yeah, so that's about as much as I can tell you about the XM4 at this point. If you want the full review, please subscribe to the channel, ding the YouTube bell, etc. And YouTube will let you know when I go live with that review. But in the meantime, if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you're around for the live chat, hang around and let's have a little chat. All right, let me catch up with the live chat crew as best as possible. And I really appreciate y'all hanging around for this obviously quite jumbled production. Let me catch up with the chat as best as possible. And I see some comments about the screen tearing. Yeah, I think this is a limit of my capture card. I might have to update my capture card because the capture card that I use for, let's see, this video, I believe doesn't do the screen tearing stuff. But then now when I'm using this one, it's screen tearing and I'm not sure what's up. It did that before, but it seems to be doing it really bad today. I'm not sure why. But thanks for calling that out. Don Trumpion, how's it going? Nice to see y'all. Zaki with Ldac, that's right, we got Ldac here. Phoenix, what's up? How's it going? First time catching the live stream, glad you can make it. It is not my normal time. It's like 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in California, which means I should be in bed pretty soon, but I really did want to get this set up as functional as possible and let you see what the XM4s look like today before going to bed. So we got it kind of working. We got a question from Shreyansh asking Campfire Audio Polaris versus Blessing 2 Dusk. I haven't heard the Polaris, so I can't give you an answer on that. I think they are priced about the same. They're priced pretty similarly. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm probably gonna prefer the Blessing 2 just because I'm a bit of a Blessing 2 stan, but I don't know. I haven't heard the Campfire Audio Polaris or the V2, which is new. So maybe I would like that one. Ender's saying it looks like soap inside the box. Yeah, this box is, I agree, a little bit soap-like. What do you think about this comparison? Is there anything Like, this is a very unique design that Sony went with, the XM3s. Definitely chonky, but like it feels nice. Honestly, this feels a little bit nicer than this case. This feels a little lighter, more plasticky, more like, honestly, a lot of budget true wireless cases. This has got kind of a soft touch to it, although you can see that it scuffs up quite a bit, and I've even seen these scuffs on the black model, so it's not just limited to the lighter colored gray. But I don't know, do you like the premium look here, or just kind of the more minimal look of this one? I mean, gotta be honest, I like the size of this. Obviously, I'm gonna put it in my back pocket, and like, it feels nice there. Put it in my front pocket, and it actually feels pretty decent in the front pocket. Not as good as the Samsungs or the Airpods, but that's definitely livable. Josh Sabo, graph please with the knife. You kind of got a graph. I'm gonna make a couple more attempts at that to make sure I'm getting that right, but we've got our graph, and again, that's gonna be available on squig.link sometime tonight. Yeah, Tron saying hooray for USB-C. It is nice that we can kind of find, I mean, the XM3s, you know, I'll give it to Sony. Even on the XM3s, these supported USB-C. But I was gonna say, it's nice that we can just kind of, at this point, finally take USB-C for granted. It is finally the standard that everyone wished that it was for like the last 5 or 6 years. And Cheebs, I see you saying that's a different hybrid ear tip. So Sony makes these ear tips, and this is what comes on. Actually, let me pull out the, you know what, this one has the silicone tips on it for now. But the XM3 did come with these kind of similar hybrid ear tips where they are foam on the outside and silicone on the inside. It's interesting. I'm curious about the longevity of these tips because I've never actually lived with a pair of these Sony hybrids myself. Anyone here that's watching, have you lived with Sony hybrid foam silicone tips, and how do they do for longevity? Because that's one of the things I don't love about foam tips. I don't love that you have to compress them before putting them in your ears, and then I don't love just they get dirty, and there's not, like, you can't clean them the same way that you can clean silicone tips. Transient Snail saying you think it's 8 hours of battery life with noise canceling and actually 12 hours without. That's pretty good. Because, you know, I mentioned that the Galaxy Buds Plus supported 11 hours of battery life, which is kind of the leader at this point. I'm sure there's something that does better, but in terms of the mainstream brands making premium products, this is the best battery life out there. But that doesn't have any noise canceling. So if these things can do the same battery life or even slightly better without noise canceling, I guess that's a nice advantage to them. Although if you're paying for these do cost extra, $280 versus I think these were around $150 when they first came out. You can now get them for under $100. If you're paying that extra, you probably want the noise canceling. Edward Bador saying 5 manuals, all the trees Sony killed. Yeah, imagine all the effort that they went through with this packaging, this like eco-friendly packaging, and then they hit me with this. That's a cable, that was not their fault. But this, all this, that was Sony. Sony did that. Todd saying you're paying at least $50 just for the papers. It's possible. Probably not, but it's possible. See some talk about the Moondrop S8. It's a good sounding earphone. I would say the S8 is my favorite earphone at this point. Sort of, maybe not necessarily the absolute best sound quality, but it's good enough. I don't really have any complaints about it, which is an understatement. I really love the way it sounds. But this, just like the combination of the sound quality with the form factor and how well it fits my ears and how secure it is and it looks great, that's gotta be my favorite earphone. yeah, it's not cheap, 700 bucks, but there are much more expensive earphones that, if given the choice, I would probably still pick the S8. New Flamenco saying, the XM3 noise canceling was trash, I found. I wonder how much better these will be. And that is an interesting point. The noise canceling on true wireless IEMs, in my experience, has not been as good as the noise canceling from over-ear headphones. That said, I don't know, they can be pretty decent. Like the noise canceling here on the AirPods Pro, I find is actually pretty solid. Really no complaints about these. And then the Galaxy Buds Pro, like I said, these don't have noise canceling in them, but because they seal my ears and these fit pretty large inside my ears, I actually find that the passive noise canceling on these things is actually pretty good. So given the large bulky size of these things and how they fit inside my ears, I think the passive noise canceling will probably be pretty decent. Combined with active noise canceling, I've got good hopes, I guess, but honestly, I'm more interested in a transparency mode. Is the transparency mode on these, on the XM4s, going to be anywhere as good as the transparency on the AirPods Pro? I don't know about that. Saw some questions about the microphone that I'm using for measuring. So this is basically, it simulates the inside of an ear. This thing does, and it's got a microphone on the inside of it. And so what I can do is pipe an IEM into the top of it here and record a sine sweep, and then that's how you produce the graph that we kind of sort of saw earlier today. And David Glass, I see you making an interesting point. You say that a computer is probably the worst thing to connect for a graph. And so I don't know if this is necessarily your point, but a thing that is worth calling out. I talked about these things supporting Ldac, which means that is sort of like the highest resolution Bluetooth codec out there. When I connect these things to my Mac, I am not getting Ldac quality. In fact, I'm only going to get AAC at the very best. Ostensibly, if I connected these to some source that supported Ldac, maybe I could get a frequency response with a slightly higher resolution, although when we're looking at frequency responses, I don't think it's going to change that much, really. I don't suspect that would change the frequency response that we would get out of it if I recorded it on one device or another. At that point, you're really just sending a very basic signal to the earphones, and you're getting the squig that's being processed by the internal DAC and amplification inside these. So I think it's probably going to be about the same. I see some folks were suggesting I turn off the lights for the infrared thing. I think that actually wouldn't work, because I believe what happens is, well, I don't know. I don't know how this infrared sensor works, but I suspect it's sort of sending out, it's sort of beaming, like it's probably an infrared emitter as well as a receiver. No, that's a good question. Oh, and Joshua, I see you asking an interesting question too. Is ANC turned off for the squig? That's a thing I will double check and triple check after the stream. I don't even know how to turn on ANC on and off on these things yet, so I'm not really totally sure. I'm guessing it was turned on by default. Finnish pedestrian, Finnish as in from Finland, asking me what is my go-to true wireless earbuds? Honestly, they are these ones, the ones that I brought in on camera, the AirPods Pro and the Galaxy Buds Plus. The AirPods Pro are the ones I use the most. These things are just super, super convenient. I live primarily in the Apple world, as you can see by my MacBook, and I've used an iPhone and doing this stream on an iMac. So these things are really convenient for a lot of reasons. Now, when it comes to listening to music, however, I actually prefer listening to music with the Galaxy Buds Plus. That said, I just don't listen to music with Bluetooth a lot. So while this is my favorite Bluetooth music listening device, I still end up using these more because I just use them for podcasts and YouTube and stuff. Scott Pleasure saying, why is YouTube so bad at notifying me of these live streams? I don't know what that's about. I actually had that experience this weekend. I was trying to tune into headphoneshow.com. They were doing a headphone show. They were doing a live stream with Critical this weekend, and I clicked the button to remind me. And I carried my phone around with me, and it never reminded me. In fact, what I found out is that it had reminded me on my DAP, my Android-based DAP, but it didn't remind me on my phone. So it was not really useful. YouTube, yeah, they're pretty inconsistent with that stuff, unfortunately. Bernard asking, where's my review of the Sony WH-XM4? You said WG, but I think you meant WH. That is the over-ear noise canceling headphone. I didn't do a review of that because I'd have to buy it, and I'm pretty confident I would not like it. I did a review of the XM3 headphones, and I just don't love the way, I really dislike how they sound. I don't use them at all. I paid money for them. I did the review. I'm glad I did it. I got the experience, but I don't like the way that they sound. And the XM4s, I suspect they'll sound a little bit different, but probably a lot the same. So I didn't want to spend, what, $350 to find out. Mr. Frosty saying, I've been using the WF-1000XM3s, aka this guy right here. Been using them for nearly a year and they've performed flawlessly. You regularly get 9 hours loud music. That's pretty good. Another thing that's worth calling out on the topic of XM3s and XM4s is that these things have been out for a while and you can get them at a really, really good price. These new ones cost now $280. I feel like I've seen these things on Amazon for under 150, like 120 bucks. And at that point, it does become a pretty hard argument. Although honestly, I don't know. It's like there's just so many options, and I guess we'll find out if the active noise canceling improvements and some of the other stuff are actually worth it. But it does make it a bit of a hard argument, knowing that that older model still exists for about half the price. Light GSC saying XM4 at least look more premium than the competitors, and I think that's maybe not necessarily the case here with the case. The cases, I think the Airpods still have the best looking case, and this one maybe looks the most premium of the bunch, but yeah, I don't know. The case doesn't look that great, but the buds themselves, I think these things look pretty stinking cool. There is a bit of a premium vibe going on there. New Flamenco saying you used the foam tips for years and never had an issue. Cool, that's a good anecdote. Hopefully I have the same experience. Jean Camille saying I had the Sennheiser Momentum V1, which were super comfy. How do these compare? I'm gonna have to go back and try them because I haven't worn the Sennheiser TWS probably about 6 months. So I'll do that comparison in the full review. This is just a first look video. Redrick with an interesting point saying, I found Ldac really unstable and unusable really, which is a true thing that can happen. And I think it really comes down to your particular phone and probably your device that you're connected to. My understanding is that some phones do Ldac better than others. I currently, my main phone when I'm using Ldac is gonna be a Sony Xperia 10, not a high-end phone. I think I paid $250 for it. But in my experience, when I've done Ldac with it before, it's done pretty well. In fact, I was surprised at how good the connectivity was, and the range especially, given the fact that Ldac is like very explicitly trading off stability for quality. So in my experience, it's been pretty good, although maybe a little bit more susceptible to interference from other signals in the area. Logan N, I see you asking how's the fit. So I did the fit test a little bit earlier. Let me throw them back in and make some comments. I mean, I'll just say they're talking to me. Interesting that they're talking to me one at a time. That's not fantastic, but here you can see what they look like inside my ears. And I gotta say, they definitely fit on the bulkier side compared to some other true wireless IEMs, but comfort seems pretty good. They do hang outside of the ear a little bit more than others. Let's see if I could throw in a Galaxy Bud just for comparison. And the Galaxy Buds I find to be kind of like the most secure fitting, partially because they've got these fins, and you can just see how much deeper and more securely it fits inside my ear, while the XM4s are definitely living a little bit more on outside my ear. But comfort-wise, like, it feels fine. I wouldn't say these things feel uncomfortable. I'm surprised that they only include the foam tips. That's an interesting choice. I'm guessing that was for maximizing the noise canceling and making sure that people get the maximum amount of noise canceling. When you get the option of silicone versus foam, I think a lot of people are going to tend to go to silicone, but by doing that, you are kind of inherently reducing the effect of the noise canceling. So maybe this is like their way of kind of pushing people into foam tips. JCap asking, when is the IT01X review coming out? It probably is not going to be for at least another week. Next week at the earliest, but might even be a little bit later than that. Logan asking, how do I think they'll compare with the Jabras? I haven't heard actually any of Jabra's true wireless IEM, so I'm not sure. War Samir, how's it going? Nice to see you again. Monique saying, unrelated, your video looks awesome on my iPad. Cool, that's good to hear. This is a brand new setup. I'm still not totally sure what's going on. I wish I didn't have this reflection in this back picture here. I got some things to work out, but for now, this'll do. Ashley asking a question, how do you turn on Ldac? And that's a good question because it's kind of a different process and just a different situation depending on which phone you're using. First of all, you got to use a phone that supports Ldac, which I think pretty much all Android phones post, I don't know, like Android 8 or so do support. So if you've got an Android 8 or Android 9 device, pretty confident that you support Ldac. Now, sometimes when you connect, like my Sony phones, I think they just they just naturally support Ldac. They will default to an Ldac connection. But that's not necessarily the case with some other phones. I think my Samsung phone, I had to dive somewhere into settings. I don't even remember where I found it to enable Ldac. So sometimes they hide it, and I'm not sure what that's all about. So unfortunately, I don't have the best answer for you, except that if you want to make sure you're getting it, you can just get a Sony phone. That's not a real serious recommendation, though. Rhetoric asking about my opinion of Airpods versus Galaxy Buds. I think I talked about that a little bit, and just in case, these both of these devices I think are pretty phenomenal. I think there's a lot of functionality benefits and just convenience factor that these things do way better. Like my biggest complaint with the Galaxy Buds, honestly, is just that the touch sensitive control on here is way too sensitive, and I activate it all the time by accident. I don't have any issues with the controls here on the AirPods. And then the transparency mode is phenomenal. Bouncing between different Apple devices is phenomenal. So these things are just way more convenient. And sound quality in these is actually really good too. But I don't know, it's not that engaging for me. The Galaxy Buds Plus for music listening, I find a lot more engaging. Maybe a little bit on the thinner side, but it just does better at that music layering, that 3D sense, that imaging, right? Making it so that different instruments sound like they're coming from different positions in space. I think the Galaxy Buds do that better than the AirPods, and that's why I prefer listening to those for music. Epic Mike asking, should I return my Moondrop Sparks? Well, the Moondrop Sparks are $90 and these are $280. So if you want noise canceling and to spend another 200 bucks, yeah, you could return the Moondrop Sparks. And Finished Pedestrian asking, wondering if these will be at all repairable. I would not bet on it. Todd asking me, am I going to review any of the recent Bose headphones? And I don't think there's anything new that's on my radar at this point. I reviewed the Bose noise canceling 700s, I guess almost 2 years ago at this point. They're okay, but I don't know. I know they've got, I think they do have like a newer true wireless IM that I don't have high hopes for it, and that's why I guess it's hard for me to get excited about going out of my way to buy it. Scott Pleasure saying those do seem bulky, I think referring to the XM4s. I know my ears are smaller than yours. They may be a no-go for me then. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna spend some time, you know, wearing these long-term and seeing how comfortable they are long-term. I'll also ask some people around me to try them out in their ears because, you know, my wife is actually a pretty good test subject. She didn't like the way that the original AirPods fit. They fall out of her ears. AirPods Pro, a great fit for her. I'm interested to see how these things fit for her and just, I don't know, some other people that I run into. Yeah. Triper asking why Sony don't use balanced armature design, and that's an interesting question. I mean, Sony does use balanced armatures in their wired IMs, but it's pretty rare to have balanced armatures in a true wireless IM. I'm not sure what that's about. There are some out there that do it. I think KZ makes some, but there's not a lot. And I don't know. I don't really know why. Gas mask dude, I haven't heard the Thea Audio Oracle or even heard these things yet, so I can't answer your question. And Alexander Ocampo with an interesting question. Does it cancel out wind noise? Again, I just unboxed these things. I haven't tried them out, so I have no idea yet. That will be in the full review. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, ding the bell, etc. YouTube will let you know when I do that review. But that's an interesting question because a lot of active noise canceling headphones, if you go out into the world and there is wind, really annoyingly, I'm surprised that it's still a problem, but wind will blow by the microphones on the noise canceling headphones and it gets passed into the ears as like this weird, just noisy static sound, and I hate it. Like the Beats Solo Pro was like one of the first headphones that I really noticed it on, but it's even true with like the AirPods Pro to some extent. It's definitely true with the Galaxy Buds Pro, or the Galaxy Buds Live. That was the one that I did. So it seems like a surprisingly common problem, and I'm interested to see how the XM4s do against that. Mr. Frosty saying, I like the copper top of the WF-1000XM3, and I don't carry stuff like that in a trouser pocket no matter the size. Okay. So for you, this chunky size doesn't matter. I get it, I get it. For me, it matters. But it's cool. Epic Mike with the super chat. Thank you, Epic Mike. Asking, will the foam tips lick my ears? Because I don't want that. I always use silicone. The foam tips lick my ears. I'm trying to translate that in a way that you probably meant. I tend to use silicone tips almost exclusively as well. So I am interested to see how these foam tips do in the long run. They are a smoother, maybe less porous foam than typical. A lot of foam tips, you can like very clearly see the pores in them, and that means that they will, you know, collect moisture and dirt and stuff a little bit more easily. These things are pretty smooth. They almost have a silicone-like finish to them. So maybe they'll be a little bit better. Although you can just see, like when I compress them like this, that's kind of like the telltale sign that these things are definitely made out of foam. Will they lick your ears? I hope not, but I can't make any promises. Elite, I have not tried the budget Canara set. Red Rich with I think a pretty interesting suggestion here, saying what the Galaxy Buds Plus need is for the touchpad to disable automatically about 5 seconds after the first bud is removed from the case. I always get unwanted touches from insertion. Yeah, that is really a problem with these things. And in fact, I think, so these things even have, let me zoom in on there. These things even have that infrared sensor in there, so these know when they're not inside your ear. It would be really nice if when the earbud was not in your ear, they just automatically disable the touch controls. And to your point, Rhetoric, so let's say they're not in your ear, disable the controls, and then when it goes in your ear, wait a good 3 to 5 seconds to make sure that it's not just in your ear while you're fiddling around with it still. Basically, I don't want these things to be touch sensitive while I'm still trying to put them inside my ear. You can disable the touch control entirely on the Galaxy Buds, which is an option, but then that just means you can't play pause, which is kind of annoying, so I don't know. Samuel, I see you joined late. This is not a review. This is just a first look video. I have not actually listened to the XM4s at all yet. And Lazar, you're asking a question also that would have required me to listen to them. Is the speak to chat feature good? I don't know yet, but I am actually really interested in that feature. And that is a feature I believe the XM4 headphones do as well. The idea is that, you know, you can go between noise canceling and transparency modes in a lot of these ANC headphones by hitting a button. But if you're just going out about in the world and you start talking to somebody, it can be a little bit of a process to stop and like fiddle with the buttons, the touch sensitive stuff, and switch to transparency mode. So what these do, and what the XM4 headphones do, is they attempt to detect when you're talking and automatically go into transparency mode when that happens. I'm really interested in that feature. I think that's actually a really good idea. In fact, such a good idea. I gave that suggestion to Aftershocks, let's say like 4 years ago. They didn't do it. I mean, not for transparency mode, because Aftershocks are just inherently transparent, but whatever. Transient Snail saying wind noise is the biggest reason why I think passive isolation with semi-custom IEMs is just better ANC. And for those who are maybe not familiar with what transient snail is referring to, all right, so something like the AirPods Pro and the new Sony XM4s, they have active noise canceling, which means there's microphones in the externals of the devices picking up sound and then electronics going on inside that are then canceling out the sounds. That is active noise canceling. And there's also passive noise canceling, which is what you get with something like the Galaxy Buds Plus. There's no electronics doing that kind of stuff, but these things just fill up your ear and they plug your ear, and because there is material in your ear, they are inherently just passively blocking out sound. Now, because it's not based on microphones outside, that external wind noise problem that I talked about, you don't get with just passive noise isolation. So I think that's a good point. It certainly depends on the situation though, because like, if you're on an airplane, active noise canceling is still probably going to be more comfortable, and you don't have to worry about noise or the wind noise. So in certain situations, yeah, I guess it's just, we don't have the one size fits all yet. Christian Sanchez saying yours coming tomorrow. I was actually pretty surprised with how quickly these things came. So the XM4s were just announced officially this morning. They showed up on Amazon. I was able to place an order and they arrived in the evening, same day. Wow. That's like, someone thought about that. Cinema Boy, I have no idea how easy it is to replace the battery in these things. I mean, we can take a look at the hardware and take a best guess, but there's definitely no external screws. Maybe I could pop this thing open and replace the battery, but that's not going to be a thing I'm going to attempt. So and Tim Baxter, yeah, I think generally foam tips seal better than silicone tips, but I still don't like them as much. Logan asking, do I think earbuds will be good to work out with, playing basketball or running, etc.? My personal opinion is no. I don't really like using anything that seals my ear when I'm outdoors, if I'm perfectly honest with you. My primary, if I'm outside working out, whether I'm in the garage hitting the heavy bag, jumping rope, or out hiking, I prefer bone conduction, which is completely open ear, zero noise isolation. In fact, the opposite of, well, not the opposite, but basically, there's zero noise isolation, zero anything in between me and the outside world. And that's kind of the way I like it. When I'm running, or like just if I'm stomping, I don't like having that occluded ear effect where you just like hear your footsteps coming through your bones and stuff like that. It's not very comfortable for me. If that's not a problem for you, then I'm just probably not going to give you the best advice. But for me, I probably will not work out with these things. I mean, maybe I'll try it out just for the review, but I probably wouldn't do it normally. Logan, you get yours on Friday. War Samir with a good dig at Sony. You wish Sony released their phones that quickly. That is a pretty good indicator of where Sony's focus is, right? Sony announces a phone, and MKBHD, Marquez, he did a video about this, kind of pointing out how absurd it was that they announced this phone. He attempted to buy it immediately and didn't get the phone for like another 6 months, which is a pretty good way to kill hype. Sony nailed it with these. They announce them same day I can get them delivered from Amazon. That's pretty good. Do that with your phones if you care about your phones. Mo's favorite asking, does it go inside the ear canal deeply? Will it hurt after a while? So that's a bit of a loaded question because I wear a lot of in-ear monitors that do fit inside my ear canal deeply, and I don't have issues with comfort. I think it's a thing you get used to or you don't get used to, depending on how much you use it. So for me, even if it did fit deep inside my ears, I would not say that that would be a reason I would think they're uncomfortable. That said, these things fit, I would say, let me give it another fit. They fit a little bit deeper than like the AirPods Pro. Let me just dual wield them, right? You ever seen someone dual wield true wireless IMs? This is a bad idea. This is how accidents happen. But these, the AirPods Pro, are fitting more shallow in my ear. They're fitting kind of just like, I mean, they create a seal in the ear canal, but just really on the very outside of the ear canal. The Sony XM4s fit a little bit deeper than that. Now these are not, I would not call these a deep fitting IM. You can kind of see based on the shape here, this is not a very long nozzle, but it does in my ear fit deeper than something like the AirPods Pro. Logan in asking, is there an occlusion effect? I'm pretty confident there is. I mean, I'm just putting them in my ears. These things are kind of like bouncing between ANC mode and transparency mode, so I don't really know what they're doing. I gotta spend some time with these instruction manuals to figure out what's going on. I think I'm in a transparency mode right now, so I'd say the occlusion effect when you're in transparency mode, actually not too bad. But let's see. Let me attempt. Let me press and hold. Does that work? Nope, that doesn't do anything. Double tap, that doesn't do it. I'm gonna have to read some instructions. But I would expect that these will have some of the occlusion effect just because they are creating a seal in the ear canal. But typically when I've got transparency mode active, it reduces that effect. It seemed pretty good here. Shisheng saying the box looks a lot smaller than before, and yes, let me bring these back out here just for comparison. So AirPods Pro, Galaxy Buds Plus, Sony XM3s, and now the new Sony XM4s. Quite a bit smaller than this, but still not quite as small as these. And Umar, yes, it does have an ambient mode or transparency mode. That's what it seems to be stuck in right now, or I don't want to say stuck because I just don't know what the controls are, but it's currently in an ambient mode. And I agree, that is a really nice feature in true wireless IMs. And then Rajib with an unrelated question, but I think an interesting one. Apple Music is launching high-res music. How do you think this will change the market for digital high-res players? Will they become obsolete? I don't know. It really depends on what people are out there. Why are you buying a DAP, a digital audio player? I personally buy a DAP because it has buttons on it. That's like, I just like having a dedicated music player. So having lossless streaming on Apple Music doesn't really change that formula for me. Unless Apple comes out with an iPhone that has a play pause button, in which case I could switch for that. But honestly, like the lossless streaming, I'm gonna try it out, but I don't think it's gonna make a big difference. I think a lot of people are gonna be disappointed if they're expecting a really big upgrade from lossless streaming versus, you know, whatever, probably 320 kbps or something that Apple was doing before. I don't think most people are gonna hear a difference. And folks, I think I'm gonna have to cut it short. It is already well past my bedtime. That's right, I have a bedtime. But really, thank you all for tuning in and checking out the XM4 with me. Like I mentioned, this is just a first look video, not a full review. The review will be coming soon though. So subscribe to the channel if you're not already, ding the YouTube bell. YouTube will let you know when I'm live with that review. If you found this video useful, interesting, fun, whatever, you had fun hanging out, please hit the like button. It helps me out, helps other people find the channel. And if you're interested in checking out the XM4s, of course, I got a link in the description down below, which you can check out now or wait for the review. And until then, I guess I'll catch you later. Have a good one.